Sachin, you led the team developing these safety products. Walk us through the guidelines. Obviously, now drivers and riders have to wear masks, and you put some checks and balances into place to try to make sure that that happens.
That's right. Hi, Emily. What we announced today is really a new experience for a new normal. There are a few pieces to what we announced. First of all, as you just mentioned, starting Monday, May 18th, masks will be required both for riders as well as for drivers. On the driver side, we will also have a technology which allows us to detect whether they're wearing masks or not. We ask them to take a selfie, and our technology is able to detect whether they're wearing masks or not. So this allows us to verify that they have taken that step. But it goes deeper than that. Both on the rider side as well as the driver side, we have put several measures to hold both parties accountable. For example, if you as a rider, you get in a car and you see that the driver is not wearing a mask, you are able to cancel. Or at the end of the trip, you are able to provide feedback to us saying that the driver was not wearing a mask. Similarly, the driver has avenues as well where they can provide that feedback back to us. And the goal here is for us to be able to hold both sides accountable and have our safety measures hit a higher standard, as we believe that the expectations that our users will have will be much, much higher as we emerge out of the pandemic into a new normal.
Now, do you have technology to verify if riders are wearing masks, or is it up to drivers to cancel trips and give you that feedback that riders wouldn't wear the masks?
On the driver side, we have had a feature for a few years called a real-time ID check, which already asks them to take a selfie, which we can compare with their profile photo. So we already had the technical infrastructure on the driver side for us to implement this quickly. We do not have that technical infrastructure on the rider side. And since we wanted to get this out quickly, we went with that. However, on the rider side, we actually asked them to confirm a checklist before every single trip. Before the trip, they have to certify that they are wearing a mask, that they have washed their hands, that they will sit in the back seat and not in the front seat. And they're asked those questions every single time. And then in addition to that, if they get in the car and the drivers see that they're not wearing a mask, the drivers can let us know. And given the global scale of Uber's business, the feedback that we get from either side actually ends up being a very important indicator. And if we notice that there are riders who have been constant violators of these guidelines, we can take further actions, including removing them from the platform potentially.
Now, there are many people who are resisting wearing face coverings, including the President of the United States. At times, you've had some sad situations, a story out of Michigan where a security guard asked folks to put a mask on and he was shot. I mean, how do you handle situations like that where, you know, some people might simply refuse in the moment?
We want to set a high standard on the platform, and a lot of the policies that we have put together are based on our conversations with experts. These are not based on our intuition. We have talked to, we have worked with the CDC, the World Health Organization. We constantly talk to experts in epidemiology who have given us this guidance. In addition to that, we actually get a lot of feedback from our users. I'm a product guy. So the way, my life works is we ask our users what will make them feel safe. And those are the kinds of things that we try to implement in our products. And users, both riders and drivers, have been very clear in their feedback that they would like both parties to wear masks. So that's the decision we made. And we feel that this allows us to set a very different standard when it comes to safety and health safety in ride sharing.
Now, you're also setting aside $50 million for PPE, and I wonder what additional safety measures you're considering. We've seen folks in Asia in Grabs using these DIY plastic barriers. Have you considered things like plexiglass, which of course have been in traditional taxi cabs for a long time, to perhaps further improve the safety situation?
What I will tell you is that we have considered and we are considering several different approaches to making trips safer in an Uber. And there are certain things where we are leaning in ourselves. You mentioned that we have committed more than $50 million to acquiring PPE. This includes masks, this includes hand sanitizers, this includes disinfectant wipes, and we are in the process of distributing them to our drivers. For example, we have already distributed more than 5 million masks to drivers, and there will be tens of millions more that will be distributed over the next few weeks. When it comes to things like plastic partitions, certainly something that we have looked at. We haven't made a company-wide decision around that. However, we certainly leave the choice to drivers. And if drivers feel safer installing something like that in their car, we are supportive, and they certainly have a choice to be able to do that.
Now, last question. Obviously, we know that ridership has plummeted because we're in the middle of a public health crisis, and Uber does have a business to run. Have you thought about how much this further hurts the business by adding more friction, for good reason, though, into the process?
The way we are, looking at the new normal, we expect our users to actually expect a much higher standard of safety, and we want to get ahead of. We are going to see a wave of recovery. And as people start stepping out of home, as people start going to offices, we want them to know what we stand for when it comes to safety. And, that's the approach we are taking. We are erring on the side of caution, and we are erring on the side of safety because we believe that's the right thing to do. And it is shared responsibility. This is not just something that Uber can control or Uber can be responsible for. It's a joint partnership between us, between the riders, and between the drivers, because if we work together and we all adhere to the standard, we're going to be making each other's lives safer as well. So that's the approach we are taking with the announcement today.